2025 has been an interesting year for movies overall. I've liked a few films that have come out, but I feel like for the most part, it's been full of mid, box office flops, or Minecraft. And while I do believe obviously the year is going to get better from this point on, I've been thinking, do people actually want original movies or do they just want to complain about it? And listen, I understand the nuance here. I know not every original movie is created equal. Mickey 17, a movie I loved, is a hard sell. I get that. But every time a new trailer comes out for a movie, it feels like the comments are just flooded with Hollywood does nothing but remakes and sequels. And I'll admit, it's hard to blame them. Well, people, listen up. Enter Sinners. This will be my litmus test for the world because on paper, this is everything that people claim they want in movies. Proven director, movie star, not a sequel, not a remake, not based on existing IP, original idea, genre movie. Oh, and it has fucking vampires. So I ask you, my lovely subscribers or lovely viewers who aren't subscribers who should consider subscribing, do we want original movies or do we just want to complain about them? Because folks, Sinners is easily the best movie of the year. I left the theater with a hop in my step. I was giddy. I was excited. This is the kind of movie that reminds us why we fell in love with movies in the first place. I think back to the COVID pandemic version of me back in 2020 where I was debating, should I make a channel covering the NBA or movies? And while there were times that I questioned that decision, a movie like Sinners is why I feel like I made the right choice. And that is not to say that this is a perfect movie, but it made that theater experience feel special. And that's perfect to me. A movie where Michael B. Jordan plays twins that come to town to open their own juke joint in the 1930s where eventually some people get to biting necks, if you know what I mean. I definitely don't want to spoil anything about this movie that hasn't been seen in the trailers. And I will get into more specifics on why I like this movie. But if you are just to tune me out, just this is my main larger point here. This is the kind of movie that like reinvigorated me. Because I'll admit, with how the year has been going, I'm sorry, but like things like TV has been eating movies lunch. I've been obsessed with something like The Pit, you know? I can't say I've had too many conversations about Black Bag. But again, this is the kind of movie that just re-energizes you. And it's why I still, with the full bias, say that nothing compares to seeing a good movie in the theater. This movie has so much style and swagger to it. The 1930s aesthetic and its costumes really add to it because, I mean, everyone got that shit on. And that immediately gives it more energy than other movies we've seen in this similar genre. Sinners is a lot. It hits a lot. It tackles a lot. There's a lot of characters. And I wouldn't be surprised if people watch this and they think, yeah, it's very ambitious. It kind of spills over a little bit. I would understand that. But the thing is, I don't care. Because unlike other movies where I do see that sense of ambition and it just fully loses me and spills over the edge, this thing is wrapped and covered with so much detail that it's hard for me not to enjoy it. One of the main things about Sinners is temptation. That is obvious from the title of Sinners and its many biblical references in the movie. It's temptation in a way that looks at it very differently. The villains in this movie are basically set up to say how much fun being a vampire is, how much fun and how much more free you are kind of joining the dark side. And it does a good job conveying that. There are many scenes where the villains themselves are seemingly having a good time. They're singing, they're dancing. And as everyone knows, the real world can suck. Being a human in this life can suck nonetheless being a human in the 1930s. But that's not where it ends, even though I think most people agrees, yeah, this life is hard. I'm not exactly interested in a movie that says, being a human is hard work, and that's it. Ideally, I would like a movie that says being a human is hard, life is hard, but it's worth it. And this movie does that. Because through all the killings and the gore, for which there are plenty, it still makes humans seem like the better choice. And Ryan Coogler's use of music, I think, really punches that home. It's not a spoiler to say that they use the blues music as almost like the devil's music. That this kind of music is what draws in evil. But just as the music does draw in those evil figures outside, it brings everyone inside together, where everyone is having the most fun in their life. And it certainly helps that the music scenes in this movie are just incredible. Without spoiling anything, there is one scene where Sammy is singing for the first time at that juke joint, and it's a oneer where I'll fully admit I'm just a slut for those things. I'm sorry, especially if it's good. But without spoiling anything, that scene had me acting like the Martin Scorsese meme where my hands were just up like, this is cinema, man. This is exactly what I want in a movie like this. And seeing Ryan Coogler, who could have just made any standard vampire movie that I feel like we've seen many, many times before, to infuse it with such originality is just amazing. Using its own themes of race and despair and temptation and its use of music mixed in with a vampire flick, I don't know what else you want. What more do people want? This whole movie is basically takes place within a day of itself overnight, and it's amazing how Ryan Coogler uses that time frame in just a day to talk about essentially years and years and decades of generational trauma and happiness. And a lot of that is credit to the actors as well. This ensemble is just incredible. I think it's a perfect use of almost everyone's talents on screen. But not only that, this movie does take its time before it really starts to ramp up. Before we get to the whole juke joint part of the movie, it really does take its time establishing these characters in a way that doesn't make it seem like it's just exposition or something to move the plot along, or it's done in a very poor handled way. You either get just enough to understand their characters, or you really get more insight into the twins, for example. I think this is arguably the best use of Michael B. Jordan. I don't know what it is about this year and one actor playing two different roles, as this is already the third movie just this year, but he is absolutely dynamic as both Smoke and Stack. He is able to play all facets of those characters to a T, whether it's the aggressive masculine type or a completely loving character as well. And Miles Catton, who was the backup singer for her, for which she referred him to Ryan Coogler for this part, it's his first acting gig. He's amazing as well. He has an amazing voice, but also his presence does hold up, especially when acting opposite Michael B. Jordan. Their dynamic works especially because you can tell that Miles is supposed to look up to Michael B. Jordan's character. But really, the whole ensemble as a whole is just amazing. But as mentioned, I don't think this is a perfect movie. I can envision some of the complaints already. And I understand I am at the risk of completely overhyping this movie. And I hate doing that. I hate coming on here talking about how much I love a movie. I see the comments saying it was just okay. But for a movie that has as much cynicism on human life and temptation as Sinners, it just as much has such a positive outlook on what human beings can do in community. And when you combine that with the idea that music can almost be a guide and hold your hand through centuries and generations of joy and culture, I think that this movie Sinners is a representation of that. The idea that movies can also guide you and hold your hand through centuries and generations. I don't even know if that's making sense. I'm so tired. Sinners, 5 stars. Please go out and see this movie if you are willing and able. I do not think you'll regret it. Maybe you won't like it as much as me, but I still think you'll at least admire some parts about it. Surely, right? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'll catch y'all next time.